Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little different. We're focusing on just one single plant.
Just one.
It's called the red-stemmed Thalia geniculata, which is just a beautiful name, and we're going to use it as a kind of shortcut to understand the whole world of botanical classification.
Right. It's a fantastic case study.
And when you look at our sources, the first thing that jumps out is just how it looks. I mean, it's purely aesthetic.
Oh, absolutely. It's a gorgeous specimen.
The texts call it an excellent addition for pond edges, valued for its, and this is a great phrase, sheer beauty.
Yeah.
But, we're not here just for the pretty pictures.
That beauty is the hook, for sure. But our mission today really is to go deeper. For you listening, we want to unpack the technical language that actually defines this plant's life.
Okay.
Because understanding these terms is the difference between just admiring it and, well, knowing what it needs to survive, why its roots absolutely have to stay underwater.
It's like its survival blueprint written in this really dense language. The sources call it an emergent aquatic herbaceous hydrophyte.
It's a mouthful.
It really is. It sounds like jargon somebody just threw at a wall.
Mm-hmm.
But if we pull it apart, each one of those words tells a critical story. So where do we start?
We start with the most fundamental part of its identity, its entire lifestyle, really. And that's the last word in that phrase, hydrophyte.
Hydrophyte, okay.
This term is the absolute foundation. A hydrophyte is a plant that grows either partially or completely in water, or at the very least in soil that's always saturated.
So water isn't just a preference?
No, not at all. It's a non-negotiable necessity.
Okay, so that immediately brings up a huge challenge, right? If it's living in water, the soil at the bottom of a pond is, it's muddy, it's stagnant, and crucially, there's very little oxygen down there.
Exactly. It's an anoxic environment.
So how does a normal root system, which needs to breathe just like we do, even survive in that?
And that is the essential insight we get from just that one word, hydrophyte. It doesn't just tell you where it lives. It implies these massive physiological adaptations.
Adaptations, okay.
Aquatic plants like Thalia geniculata have evolved specialized tissues to deal with that exact problem, the lack of oxygen.
So what does that look like?
Well, what's really fascinating is that the plant develops something called parenchyma.
Parenchyma.
Parenchyma. It's basically an internal system of air channels. Think of them as large air-filled spaces inside the stem and roots, like a built-in snorkel.
Wait, a snorkel? So it's growing its own ventilation shafts to get air from the leaves.
All the way down.
All the way down to the roots buried in the mud. That turns the simple definition, grows in water, into this incredible story of biological engineering.
It is. It's an elegant solution to what would otherwise be a fatal environment. The fact that it's called a hydrophyte tells us it's already solved this universal problem for aquatic plants.
Okay, so we've got the why. It needs water, and it has the internal plumbing to handle the low oxygen mud. But that waterlogged environment must create another challenge. How does a plant with a soft green structure stay upright and flexible without the rigidity of wood? And that, I guess, leads us to the second term, herbaceous.
Herbaceous, yes, that's the word that defines its physical texture, its structure. It's how our sources distinguish it from anything you might call a shrub or a tree.
So not woody.
Exactly. To put it simply, herbaceous means the plant lacks a woody stem. It doesn't have that thick woody tissue. Instead, it has that soft green structure you mentioned.
And what does that mean for the plant functionally?
For you, thinking about it, it means two things. One is flexibility. It can sway in the current without snapping, which is a huge advantage. The other is likely seasonal dieback. It isn't built to last through harsh winters like a tree is.
And that softness, that herbaceous quality, must be what allows its main feature to really pop. We called it the red-stemmed Thalia. If it were a woody plant, that color would be hidden under bark.
That is a brilliant connection, yes. The signature feature, that amazing red stem, is directly linked to it being herbaceous.
How so?
That redness comes from pigments called anthocyanins. Because the stem tissue is soft and sort of translucent, those pigments are completely visible right under the surface. If it were covered in bark, we'd never see it. Its structure is completely tied to its beauty.
Okay, this is coming together. We know it needs water, that's hydrophyte, and we know it's soft and flexible, that's herbaceous. So now we have to figure out the exact geometry of its survival, how it positions itself. This is where it gets really interesting because it sort of needs to be in two places at once.
It does.
So how does that last term, emergent aquatic, define its relationship with the water?
This is the term that dictates its posture in the world. Emergent aquatic is all about that duality you mentioned. The sources break it down into two key parts.
Okay.
The first part is aquatic. This means it has to be firmly rooted in the substrate, the mud at the bottom of the pond. That's how it keeps its root system submerged, which we already established is critical.
So it's anchored underwater, using its internal snorkel system to breathe.
Precisely. But the second part is emergent. The majority of its stems and leaves have to rise up completely out of the water and into the air.
Why is that so important?
Well, the leaves need direct sunlight and CO2 for photosynthesis, and the stems are what collect the oxygen that then gets pumped down through those internal air channels.
Yeah.
Can't get those things underwater.
So this is a really tight balancing act. This classification is basically the blueprint for a plant that lives perpetually right on the edge, on the surface of the water.
It is.
But that raises a big question, especially for anyone trying to grow it or study it. What happens if the environment doesn't cooperate? What if the water level drops and the roots get exposed to air?
And that's exactly why this classification is so crucial. If the water level drops and those roots are exposed, the whole system collapses. The roots are optimized for saturation. If they dry out, even for a bit, the plant faces intense stress and can die.
And the other way around, what if the water gets too high?
Same problem, different reason. If the water rises too much and submerges the leaves, the emergent part, then it can't photosynthesize properly. The leaves might rot. So that term, emergent aquatic, defines this incredibly narrow band of survival.
Wow.
It needs a specific depth where the water covers the roots but stops short of the leaves and stems.
That is just phenomenal. That much detail, all painted by just those three words: hydrophyte, herbaceous, and emergent aquatic. It's not just a pretty red stem anymore. It's this beautifully engineered machine.
It really is.
So let's just quickly recap this. Thalia geniculata is this striking plant, and its classifications tell its whole story.
A complete story.
Hydrophyte tells us about its watery habitat and its oxygen problem. Herbaceous describes its flexible, colorful body. And emergent aquatic defines its critical position roots down, head up.
And if you connect that technical knowledge to the bigger picture, you get to something the sources mention, which is this curiosity that drives naturalists, the desire to go out and see these things in the wild. Right.
Right, the difference between seeing a picture online and actually visiting a real pond.
Exactly. When you see this plant in the wild, knowing those three terms changes everything. You see the red stem and you understand why you can see that color. You see the leaves in the air and you know there's this invisible battle for oxygen happening in the mud below. A picture can never give you that context.
Absolutely not. And this plant, with its very specific need-submerged roots, stems in the air, it really leads us to a final thought about discovery. If we only look at photos of plants we already know, we just see what's already been cataloged.
Yeah.
But when you arm yourself with this kind of technical language, you know what a hydrophyte needs, what an emergent plant looks like. You start to see the environment differently.
You know what to look for.
You do. So here's a thought to take with you. What new plant or what new adaptation might you discover by visiting a wild place with this knowledge? Instead of just scrolling through pictures online, that's something to explore in your next outing.